I'm Margaret Lewin and welcome to Margaret Lewin Quilting. Today we are going to be working on a number of different things. I have filmed how I laid out my Lyon's quilt. I ended up having to do it on the floor because the quilt's so large. So I showed you exactly how I laid it out and made the decisions and moved blocks around and all of that. And now I'm going to show you how I continuously sew one column, because mine is 8 columns wide by 9 rows. So I picked the columns because it's one less row of sewing. So I'm going to show you how I went about doing that and how I do it in a continuous method. So I'm actually going to run 2 cameras for a little while. So stick around and I'm going to first show you how I go about laying it out, and then I will show you how I go about sewing it. So here we go. You can see what I've done here. I'm gonna show you. I have labeled it top left corner so that I know that that's where my starting point is. I'm not gonna remove this until I get the quilt all put together again. So what I've done is I've gone through and I've pinned it. Now there's something I want you to notice here. When I pinned it, look at what I did. When I pressed this, I pressed my seam to a side, and I should have pressed it open, or I should have pressed it back, half of them back and the other half forward, and I didn't do that. So what you've got here instead is I've opened up the first row and just left it like that. Once I get it all sewn together into the column, then I'll be able to go back and press it. Now, if you want to, you can just sew it with them together. The only thing I will suggest that you do is you pin it before the seam and after the seam so that you've got this really secured and you're not going to end up losing your points there, okay? I'm getting ready to sew my rows, and I want to show you how it is that I'm gonna do it. So what I've got here is just a drawing of all of my 9 blocks, and the lines obviously mean in between the blocks. So here are my 9 blocks. So I've got them laid out 1 to 9, and this is how I'm gonna sew it. My first seam that I'm gonna do is between 1 and 2. My second seam that I'm gonna do is between 5 and 6 block. My third is between block 2 and 3. My fourth is between block 6 and 7. My fifth is between 3 and 4. My sixth is between 7 and 8. My seventh is between 4 and 5. And my eighth, my very last seam, is going to be between 8 and 9. This is going to allow me to continuously sew this without ever stopping. So I'm not going to have to cut my thread until I'm completely done. So now I'm going to make a little adjustment to the camera and I'll play some music and you can just watch me sew it. up my seam first. Whoop. Turned that one over, didn't I? All right, once I get done setting my seam, I'm gonna open up my block, put my strip stick underneath there, and here we go. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you how I'm lining up my columns to put together. So you can see I've got some of them pinned already, and I want to show you how I did that. There's going to be a lot of pinning putting this together because we've got so many corners that are going to meet up. You'll notice here I did press my seams out, and I'm going to stick my pin right in there, and then I'm going to put my pin through here, the other piece. I'm just going to squeeze them together and line them up. Then I'm going to put a pin on both sides. So there's one, here's another one. All right, I'm going to remove my pin. I'm going to bring it down. I'm going to line up this one next. This one's the middle seam. Again, sticking my pin through at the center of the seam, and then bringing the two together. I'm going to grab another pin. I'm going to pin one on each side of it, and then I can remove this pin, come on back here, and do the exact same thing. Stick your pin in the middle of the seam, and then pop it through the seam that you're matching it up to. Line up the two very carefully, and then put a pin in, making sure that you're catching all of your selvage there. And then that's it. The next step will be to put it underneath your sewing machine and get your rows put together. Thank you so much for joining me today for Lyon's quilt. Now, at this point, we have shown you how to cut out your blocks, how to trim this first section, how to add your triangles, and how to square it up again. I've now shown you how to add your blocks together in rows and how to put your rows together. So you should have everything at this point that you need to get Lyon's quilt together. The next video will be on how I long arm quilted it, what design I decided on. So don't forget, if you haven't already, subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you're automatically notified of my next video. And if you get a chance, pop on out to our Facebook page, Margaret Lewin Quilting, and join us. And don't forget to post pictures of your latest quilt. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.